is waiting. Let's get it on. It's all descending all winter long.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. We have Eero Ettala on the podcast, a legend. I mean, that's that. How you been, man? Thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you. Like, I'm a fan of the show, you know, so I'm actually really humble and honored I got to be in the show. I'm retarded today. I'm trying my best to talk something that actually makes sense.
Well, we're all grateful that you set aside some time to come on the show because, I mean, who's not a big fan? What have you been up to these days, and how have you been keeping busy?
Yeah, the summer's been actually pretty busy. I mean, I got a kid 1 year ago, you know, so that's keeping me occupied all the time. And I filmed a TV show for this Finnish TV channel, and we actually just got the show done 2 weeks ago. So actually filming that show took a month and a half, and it was pretty intense. So I was actually pretty beat up, you know, like staying up all night with the kid and then trying to work for this TV show, you know. So I feel like I'm kind of tired. I probably look tired as well.
Well, if you're working on a TV show and you have a kid that's approximately, let's say, 1 year old, daddy hasn't been getting his sleep. Do you have a sleeper baby, or do you have one of those? I don't have kids, but my sister has kids and she has 3 of them. They're all boys and they all have, some of them sleep, some of them don't. So do you have a sleeper?
Well, he sort of is a sleeper. I mean, he falls asleep at 7 p.m. and wakes up around 6:30, 7 p.m. or 7 a.m. So that would give us like 12 hours of sleep, you know. But my problem is that I don't go to sleep at 7 p.m. I go to sleep at 12, you know. When he wakes up at 6, that means I get 6 hours of sleep. And then he usually wakes up maybe once or twice a night as well, you know. So it's kind of like, I feel like my sleep is kind of disrupted all the time. So, you know, it's a little bit different. Sleeping was way better 1 year ago.
So are you still partying like you were, like, 15 years ago, or is that settled down?
It's definitely settled down. I mean, I get to party maybe let's say 5 times a year. And especially now with the whole COVID situation as well, you know, like the bars are open till 11 p.m., you know, so it's kind of like doesn't even make any sense to go party anyways, you know. So it's been pretty mellow. I mean, this was the perfect time to get a kid, I feel like, you know. I'm kind of like, you know, I feel like I've done so much with snowboarding as well, you know, so I didn't feel like I'm missing out on anything, you know, that I had to scale down. And also since the COVID hit the world, you know, that meant that I wasn't able to travel. And I'm like, fuck, like that's good. I don't have to travel, so I can get to spend time with my family, you know. Like all the trips I did last season snowboarding, I had the family with me in Finland, you know, so that was actually pretty convenient.
Yeah. How many countries have you been to? Like 2 or 3?
Like
Like what, 50, 60? Did you ever count? I feel like you've probably done the world.
Yeah, I would say somewhere between like 30 to 40.
That's a solid pull, my man. It's a solid pull.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I was trying to count one day, and then I don't know, I just kind of lost the count and I was kind of over it. but somewhere close to 30, I think.
You got to get one of those maps where you can like scratch each country off that you've been to.
Yeah, or just like pin it, like have those pins.
The pins. Yeah. I always go and then I pretend that I'm from like Antarctica. Like I'm that guy that thinks it's funny. And everyone's like, okay, you're not from there, buddy. But how do they know? Out of curiosity, what is your favorite country?
Fuck, it depends like what for. I mean, snowboarding wise, I would like, let's say I retired from snowboarding and I want to go snowboard, I would go to Japan just to ride powder with homies. That's the most fun. But I think I enjoy going to the US as well. I think it's really fun. It depends where you go as well. You know, California is super nice, but I hate the highway, you know, just fucking driving on a massive highway and then just sitting in a traffic jam. That really sucks, you know. But being somewhere in like Encinitas or San Clemente and just like living that California life, it's pretty nice for a couple of weeks. But I couldn't see myself living there though. I really enjoy Finland. I like the seasons as well, you know, so it's kind of like nice to have spring and the fall, winter and summer. It's good.
Yeah, let's take it back to your childhood. You grew up in Finland. What was that? What was childhood like for a young Finnish Eero?
Fuck, it was good. I mean, I got a twin sister, I got an older brother, and we're super close as well. And then I got both parents. They're still together, and they were always super supportive, you know, like everything I wanted to try out, you know, like activities or hobbies, like they were always supporting it. I was playing soccer and I was playing ice hockey, baseball, floorball, fucking you name it, you know. And then till I found out about skateboarding and snowboarding, and that was it, you know. And that's when I started doing those. And also fucking my dad would just always drive me to the slopes like every fucking day. And in the weekends when he had like half pipe contests like up north of Finland, he would still drive me there. Like he was always busy working during the weekdays, and then, you know, like he probably wanted to rest the weekends, but he's kind of like, yeah, fucking my boy likes to snowboard, you know, like I'll fucking drive 10 hours up north of Finland just to take him to half pipe cup and see him fall and then drive him back. Like he would fucking commit. Like he was the sickest. He still is, you know, but he would definitely put a lot of effort, you know, not like I'm gonna support Eero because he's gonna make it pro. He's like, I'm gonna support Eero because like he just really enjoys it. Like he has passion for this thing. I don't think they could see snowboarding becoming a job, or I could actually make it pro one day, you know. Like they just saw that I was like really into it, and they wanted to be as supportive as possible.
Do you feel that you're going to take some of his values and put them on your son, in the sense where, you know, you're going to be the supportive father? Or there's some things you would like to drag and see that you do the exact same thing for your child, but you're also like, damn it, I'm gonna have to drive him 10 hours north. Like, this is gonna suck.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like it definitely changes when you get a kid. I feel like I definitely want to be that same guy that my dad was. You know, they're my role models, and I want to be as good of a parent as they were. You know, so I'll definitely try to be that dude. Like I'll drive wherever it takes.
That's special. That's nice. That's because, I mean, a lot of people just didn't grow up with that supportive, you know, relationship, the mom and dad figure both being there and like driving them 10 hours. So to have that, and to, you know, that's a special thing. I had that too, and I'm super grateful. And I mean, fuck, to the people that don't, you know, you got to just hope that throughout the course of their life, they make little adjustments so they can see that too, because it's worth it. It's amazing. It's amazing to be the dad that, I think a lot of people who didn't have that strive to be that person, because they know how awesome it is, because they see their friends that had that. And then once they have a kid, they're like, damn, I'm going to show up. And a lot of my friends who grew up with parents that weren't together or through a rougher childhood, a lot of them strive to be like the best father or the best moms. And it's pretty inspiring. People don't necessarily need to have the picture perfect mom and dad relationship to strive for that same common goal, which is awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And like all these activities, they're not cheap either, you know. Like fucking snowboarding is pretty expensive, and fucking ice hockey is super expensive. So it's kind of like, you know, me trying out, like, yeah, I'll try it, ice hockey, you know. And then I played for 1 year. I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of over it, you know. They bought all this equipment, you know. They must have been kind of pissed. Like we never had this conversation, you know. It's not like we're like crazy rich, you know. Like we like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to put it, you know, but it's kind of like, yeah, I think their values was just kind of like everything we had. They wanted to like just put it into like the kids, that we could actually do whatever we wanted. Kind of like they wanted to have that feeling that we could try out whatever we wanted to, you know.
Did your
But
dad have did your parents put any pressure on you for being a perfectionist or anything? And the reason why I asked that is because, I mean, you've achieved greatness. I mean, in every sense of snowboarding, you know, from your medals to how long you've had a career to just what you achieved, just and with all your sponsors and stuff. Was there pressure the entire time you were in snowboarding at one point? I know that you mentioned at the beginning that your dad was really supportive, driving you 10 hours to just land on your back. But at one point, did you feel like your parents were like, you need to commit to one of these sports and we want you to excel? Or did you just kind of put that pressure on yourself?
I feel like it just like gradually happened, you know. It just, when I found out about snowboarding and skateboarding, it just kind of, that was all I wanted to do. Like that was it, you know, like totally out of question, or playing ice hockey. out of the question. And they definitely weren't putting any pressure on me. Like the only pressure they put on me was just kind of like they wanted me to finish high school. They always told me like, you can do whatever you like, but you have to finish school, which is good, you know. Like I'm happy now that I did it, you know. But it sucked at that point when let's say, because I was like riding with Ika and Eero and Heikki and all these guys quite a bit, and I think Heikki finished school as well, but Ika didn't, or I don't think Eero did either. You know, they just fucking left, went to the US, and they were living the dream. And I was sitting in a school bench. I'm like, fuck, this sucks, you know. Like these guys are living life, and I'm just fucking sitting here, like fucking reading math books or whatever it is, and knowing that I won't need this in my life ever. So that sucked. But at this point, you know, like I'm happy I finished school.
I'm happy you finished school too. I don't know why, but sure, I am. Okay,
Yeah.
you said some cool stuff there. Heikki, Ika, Eero, I'm assuming Niemela, and Lauri. Like, were you guys like a crew from a young age, or just from different mountains? I mean, that to me seems like that was a special little group. And like you said, you see a few of them move to the States and just start, you know, living the dream. And you're like, damn it, I want to do that. Like, did you guys grow up as a community? Take us on a little bit of a background tour of your friendships.
Yeah. So yeah, actually Ika was the first guy that I met. I met him at the skate park, just super randomly. And I remember Ika had the biggest ollie. He was just like ollieing up on like fun boxes and stuff. I was like, how the fuck this guy has so much pop? And then we just kind of clicked and started hanging out. And then I found out he was snowboarding, I was snowboarding, and then we just kind of like started snowboarding in the same resort. And that's where we met Eero Niemela, and Lauri was there, and Jussi Tarvainen, and a lot of these guys that actually started the Truly Clan. I was never like Truly Clan, but I was never part of it though. Like I was pretty bummed that they never invited me to be part of it. It was just super randomly. Maybe I was just this little cook that wasn't cool enough, you know. But yeah, I was still riding with the guys all the time, but I was not part of the clan.
Let's talk about that. Like that. I mean, it's so far gone now, but like at the time, that must have felt really shitty, because I've been in a similar situation, whether it's a little skate cruise and stuff like that. And just a little bit of a comparison here. I grew up in a small town called Oakbank, and, you know, 500 people when I was a kid. And there was a skate crew, and they would always go and film. And whenever they would go to the city to film, they wouldn't invite me to go film. And I would be like, I could skate with them at the local park, but then when they were doing their crew thing and going to the city to like film little, you know, 5-stair stuff or whatever, I wasn't invited. And that sucked. Like, did it kind of suck to not be in the Truly Clan? Like, kind of take us through that.
That definitely sucked, because I feel like they were also getting like a lot of recognition, not just in Finland, but also like, you know, not worldwide, but it's just globally as well. And yeah, it definitely sucked. I mean, because I was riding with the homies, I was like friends with all of them. Like I was partying with them, I was snowboarding and skateboarding with them, but for some reason I was not part of the crew. Like I still don't know to this day like what was the reason, but which is totally fine. I mean, like I'm not bummed or anything. You know? Like, I had other homies that I was riding with as well, and we made our own movies and own crew and stuff. It's not like we were trying to battle with those guys, but I feel like we were kind of like the leftover dudes that were like had to create something else.
Did that motivate you? Did that be like, I'm not in this crew, those guys are sick? Because you obviously know that they're sick and you're kind of friends with them, but you're not like in the crew. Did it motivate you to be like, I'm gonna get fucking good?
Yeah, I think yes, somehow. I mean, like it was still kind of like a little, like really small level, you know, like none of us was pro at the time, you know, but still it was kind of like they were making their movies and filming their own thing, and I was filming my own movies and doing my own thing. So it was like this friendly competition for sure. Like we were kind of trying to like show off and like who was better and who was not. But yeah, for sure, you know, that was definitely like kind of lit the spark as well. You know, maybe I wanted to try extra hard as well. I wouldn't say I wanted to impress the guys because we were homies anyways, but at the same time, it's kind of like, for sure, I wanted to be as good as them, and then I wanted to be part of the crew, even I wasn't. But it was a weird situation though.
I feel like that happens more often than a lot of people. Well, I think a lot of people do realize that, because they are the outcast. And I think
Yeah.
everybody throughout life, it maybe not in just snowboarding, but in different avenues of their life, whether it's like the guys who get together on Friday to play poker, whatever,
Yeah.
and you're not invited and you're like, what the
Yeah.
fuck? It sucks, but it's also at one point, it's just a waste of energy to ask yourself, like, why am I not? And just
Yeah,
move
yeah.
on and just move on past that. And then it's weird because then it seems like as you just organically do your own thing, you either don't care in the future and you're like, oh, whatever, we didn't continue to cross paths, or you organically become friends with that group who initially wasn't letting you in the crew, but then organically throughout trying to force a friendship, it just happens.
Yeah. But I actually, now when I start thinking about it, maybe actually it was a good thing, because that kind of set that kind of drive and force to do something of my own as well, it's like, I think that kind of set the bar because I was making my own movies. It was called Storbies. We started making like homie films, and then that movie was suddenly like we didn't sell it to On Board, but they started printing those DVDs inside the magazine. So I was like kind of producing, and I was kind of picking the writers to the crew to ride with, and kind of fixing the deals with On Board magazine. And then I got to film for Standard Films, Mack Dawg, and I was doing tracking arrow. And then we were doing Cooking with Gas. And so I feel like I was kind of using that knowledge that I got from that into doing that other things later in life. And I think that just kind of pushed me in the right direction to kind of like, to do the things my own way, because when that happened, I was like, okay, what do I need to actually do this stuff by myself? So I bought a generator and lights. I bought a video camera. I bought a tripod. I bought a car. It just kind of like that all happened, when I realized this is all that I need, so I can actually start doing this stuff by myself, that I'm not really dependent on the other guys. So maybe
Self-sufficient.
yeah.
That's a solid play. Invest in yourself rather than waiting for everybody to come and solve your problems for you. You're like, well, if I'm self-sufficient, I can make this happen. The question I have for you is, out of that group, I mean, those guys, are a lot of those, including yourself, are like my favorite boarders. That was my era. Those are the guys that I would look up to, or in all the videos and the mags and stuff like that. Out of that group, who was the best, and who was like to you the guy that was like, at the forefront of, progression and killing it in style or whatever? And who were you most surprised to see, make it, who was maybe not the best snowboarder, but through hard work, you're like, damn, Ika got really good, or like,
Yeah. I like, for sure. Like, I mean, Heiki's a different chapter. He was not riding in the same resort with us, but he was the best, like in my opinion. Like he was out of our league, but Eero Ettala was also fucking good. Like I remember seeing, like, the first time I went to the resort, it was called Ski Resort. I went there and everybody was talking about this little kid called Eero Ettala, and he was like, at that resort, he was like a local superstar, and he was fucking sending it. Like he had so much board control, like he was able to do all the tricks with really good style. He was already sponsored, and yeah, in my opinion, like Eero Ettala and Heikki, they were like the two, the most promising rising stars out of Finland. And Ika was maybe the guy that I was like kind of on the same level with, so like we kind of had that friendly competition, like who would learn tricks here and there, and who would be better, and like who would do better in the half pipe contest and all that stuff. We would actually travel quite a bit together. Like we kind of had this setup going on as well. Like my dad would take us to the resort, and Ika's dad would pick us up, like we would actually hang out a lot together. And yeah, it would be kind of, because I feel like I'm kind of competitive, and Ika is, or maybe at least he was at that time as well, so if I would learn a trick, he would be kind of like, fuck, I need to learn that trick as well, and vice versa. So I think we had that friendly competition. And then to see Ika make it, it was definitely, because Ika made it maybe a season before me, so it was kind of like, fuck, like he's making it, like I know Ika's fucking good, and he had great, like really great style, one of my favorite styles out of anyone. And also his personality is something you can't really buy or copy, like that's something that people love. And yeah, so maybe that was one of those things, like, fuck, like my homie really made it, like maybe like I really need to start trying as well to make it as well. So that was really cool to see.
It's crazy when you, sorry, continue.
Like a little bit jealous as well, when
Yeah.
you're at that age, like when you really want to make it super hard, and then you're friend makes it, you kind of like, fuck, like I really need to make it as well since he made it.
Yeah,
It was
totally. Big time. And those guys and that crew, like to grow up with them and see them not sponsored or like kind of hooked up shop sponsor or getting like a couple boards a year, to that entire group not being like kind of successful, but every one of those dudes at one point was a top tier best snowboarder for their brand. You know what I mean? And some of them, yourself and Ika, still, which is wild to think that you guys are still in the game, still have like, I mean, I think Ika's moved on to being like more of just the team manager now, but I mean, you and Ika are super relevant still and are, I mean, it just goes to show how long of a snowboard career you can have if you really want it and are down to eat enough painkillers to suppress the injuries you've had over the years.
yeah. And I guess also play it smart, you know, and yeah, fucking I was actually, I think I was talking with Ika about that we grew up riding with, they're all kind of gone from the industry, you know, so it's kind of me and Ika left. It just kind of, you see like people disappearing, you know, it was like Larry left and then Heikki left and then, you know, like, well, Jussi left a little bit earlier, you know, you just see like people kind of disappearing. And now it's just kind of me and Ika are left. But there's a new wave of people from Finland coming out, like Renee, for example. So it's cool to see this new generation.
What is that like as far as you know, Laurie and Heikki specifically, like you guys are really close friends, seeing those people go from being like top Burton, top Forum, top DC guys, and then to slowly struggle with getting sponsorships and then inevitably getting let go. What's it like to see people come and go and and your careers continuing to, you know, excel, or your brands are willing to continue to support you? Like, I feel like that's a interesting perspective to see people who grew up with you, achieved greatness, and then, you know, lose it all, and for you to continue on. I don't really know how to extract a question out of that, but like, are there any
Yeah, it's like I totally get it. I mean, like I could kind of like just the feeling of like let's say I was competing, you know, and I was always competing with Heikki. Like that was so fun, you know, like we always just go there and like really have fun about it. Like didn't really matter like if I would podium or not, or if I would make it in finals, didn't really matter. Like we'd always have a fun time and we would always party. And then when Heikki quit competing and I was still competing, I just realized it's like, fucking, this is not fun anymore. Like I'm hanging out with these dudes that I had nothing to talk with, you know? Or it's just kind of like, I feel like I was this close to 30 snowboarder and everybody else was like 18 or like 20 and under. So it's kind of like all they were like think about and talk about was snowboarding. And I was already like, I mean, I still loved snowboarding, but I wanted to like do something else as well and talk about other stuff, you know? So it kind of got to a point when it was like, fuck, I mean, you know, like when I'm not competing with my homies anymore, it's not as fun as it was. And that kind of happened with filming as well. When we're doing Cooking with Gas show with Heikki and Laurie, and when they kind of quit snowboarding and sort of faded out, it was kind of the turning point when I'm like, fuck, you know, like I need to come up with new homies to ride with, you know, otherwise this is not going to be fun anymore. And then I started hanging out more with Antti Jussila and Tony Kerkela to ride
those
with
guys
them.
are sick.
Like, yeah, they're super sick, you know. I mean, like riding with them, like it just kind of lit the spark in me again, you know, because like they ride a little bit differently than Heikki and Laurie does, you know. So it kind of like made me adapt a little bit to their riding style as well, and you know, looking at spots differently as well, you know. So I think it was it was like kind of a new fresh start for me as well. I mean, till infinity, you know, but since that happened, I kind of like needed to find a new solution to still enjoy snowboarding and build up this new group of friends to ride with, you know.
Totally. I mean, fuck. As you get older, you kind of, I think it's important to maybe bring in those younger kids and to mentor them, because I think you get a lot out of it being the mentor, because you're happy to like teach people like simple things like how to build a jump, or like to get on the rail, or like how to, like, especially when you go into somewhere like the backcountry, it's like the amount of knowledge that you as a veteran can share with the up and comers is so important. So, because they're frothy just to hit the jump and do the switchback 10 double, but there's a lot that goes into the process. Same with filming rails, you know what I mean? Like preparation, having all the right tools and stuff like that. So when you see people like Devin, I always looked at that example, like Devin starting to mentor like Ika and kind of taking him under his wing. I always think that the mentor gets as much out of it because it resparks their like stoke and snowboarding and stuff like that. Because a lot of people, like you were mentioning, that person would have grown up with or stuff, have moved on inevitably because, you know, they get dropped or they're too old or whatever. So you as the guy that's old, who's continuing to continue on, needs to attach himself or affiliate yourself with the younger generation, or you're just going to get burnt out. And then the younger generation needs to meet some mentors so they can extract all the information and wisdom from those older people who know the industry, how to deal with sponsors, how to deal with injuries, how to deal with juggling a relationship and being on the road as a snowboarder. Like I got so much information and intel from traveling around when I was on DC with like guys like Devin and the filmer Anthony Vitale, and Laurie was a great mentor of mine, helping me deal with how to be a young teenager and figure out life. I just had so many questions and I didn't have a father figure around anymore. And it was kind of nice to have some older guys who shared the same passion to, you know, steer me in the right direction in a lot of areas of my life.
Yeah, that definitely helps, and it's really important as well. And I feel like Heikki was that dude to me in a long time. It kind of like, because that's kind of how it started, you know, like he kind of took me under his wing, you know, he got me on Mack Dawg, and then we were doing like cooking with gas together and stuff. But maybe at that point I was kind of like the driving force when we were doing cooking with gas. I was the dude like making the deal with Transworld and then trying to like figure out some sponsors to actually get the budget together so we could film and stuff, you know. So it kind of like, it almost changed, you know, like I feel like I was like piggyback riding on Heikki's back for those Mack Dawg years. Because and then when he kind of switched, when he got dropped from Burton and he was writing for other companies and wasn't really like that lucky with sponsors anymore, then I was kind of like, I took Heikki under my wing and then we were doing things together, you know. So I feel like that was like a really cool combination we had going on for a long time, and those were actually the coolest, maybe the coolest years of my life, like filming for Mack Dawg and just fucking driving around US with Heikki. It was just super random. It made no sense. Like thinking back, it's just like we're these two dudes like 20 years old. We have our own like pickup truck, 2 sleds. Like we just, I don't know. It's definitely not like a normal life to live, you know, like all these experiences we got to do. And, you know, like I was just, yeah, always when I tell people about these things we got to do, like for example, like we were filming in Big Bear for, I think it was Picture This. And, you know, like when the shoot is over, like all the American riders, they just go home, and we're like, fuck, like what should we do? And we're just like, yeah, let's just fucking drive to Las Vegas and go there to party for 3 days. You know, that's just like fucking random. Like people don't get to do that. And we're just 20 years old. Like we're living the dream, you know, because that was also the time when we're actually riding big air contests or like invitational contests and getting money, like just like fucking cash money. I remember winning Toyota Big Air in Japan and got a brown envelope with $30,000 in the envelope. I put it in my backpack and flew to US, and then we bought a car with that money, and then we just started driving around the US, or like, and we split the cost with Heikki, you know, he paid half of it and I paid half of it, you know, but it was just fucking random, just like this 20-year-old dude like traveling with the backpack with like 30 grand in his backpack, you know, and just like buying shit, you know, and then going to Las Vegas and partying and spending a lot of money. Just it's just ridiculous. Like just looking back now, it's been fucking amazing.
Yeah, now that you've gone through like 3 big waves, you know, you kind of grew up in the heyday, and then you get the financial crisis of 2008, so you get the big hammer, where big budgets are cut and stuff, and you're not getting paid. Like you used to get paid to show up to contests, just like show up to this event, we'll give you $2,000 and everything's included. And now it's like, no, those things they're long gone. And now with COVID, it's like a new generation of like, hopefully brands are realizing that, and from what I've seen, people are continuing to buy more and more snowboards. So people are enjoying the activity more. So hopefully they can figure out a way to like kind of plateau the budgets in some sense so that they can allocate a certain amount each year. So there's some sort of certainty. I feel like a lot of kids right now, they like, do you want to aspire to be a pro snowboarder where there's no certainty that your job will actually pay you anything in the future? You know what I mean? So if kids kind of like from my generation, we looked up to your generation being like, there's a certain amount of certainty that if I get to this level, I will get X. Where right now, I feel like a lot of kids are like, if I work as hard as these guys, my heroes, whoever that may be, and then they look at what they have, they might go, well, fuck, they get $2,000 a month or $1,000 a month at best. Like, unless you're in the top 1%. I mean, you shouldn't do it for money anyway. You shouldn't do anything in life for money, as I think the last 2 years of this pandemic has made very clear. Like, if the next thing that happens in life could make you realize that doing something for a paycheck is not the answer. So I don't want kids to get like a false sense of like drive towards something for money. But with all that said, you kind of have to, I don't know. I don't really know. It's just tough for kids these days. I hope they want to be the next Eero Ettala, you know what I mean? But like that takes a lot of commitment, and it's not a simple answer when someone like yourself has not only, you know, mentally done it, but you've put your body through the ringer, but you've gotten a certain amount of financial stability through that. Where do you think a lot of kids are going to want to destroy their bodies for $1,000 a month, where like people back in the day are like, if I crush it, I will make X, which will give me some financial stability moving forward?
Yeah, and also like fucking early 2000s, you know, like you didn't necessarily even have to be crazy good, or I mean, like you had to be good, but not like a superstar, but you could still make a fair amount of money to actually buy apartments and stuff. And that's not happening anymore. Like you're lucky if you're making fucking 20 grand a year, you know, like you're actually fucking legit pro, you know. And in the old days, if you could easily make 100 grand or 200 grand, like no problem, if you're kind of like a dude that has an okay part in Center Films or Mack Dawg, you know.
Wow, that's sick.
Yeah.
I'm hyped. I'm hyped that was real for some people, because I've spent, I mean, not that I'm deserving of it, but I look at a lot of people, a lot of my friends, I think that are deserving of that kind of money, or just the opportunity, like a lot of AMs around here. You just want them to get the same opportunities that other people had in the past. And both of us not coming from the States, the US, where it's just the obvious Hollywood. I mean, it's tough to see the younger generation fighting over peanuts. You know what I mean? They're like not actually fighting. Everyone's all homies and stuff, but like, you know, you see them not getting. I just wish that I could somehow like win the lottery and support the snowboard community more and be like, because some of these guys that I know, you go on a rail trip and you can see that they have the next potential to be the next, you know, Ika, Eero, whoever, you know what I mean? They are those dudes, but they're not willing to put in the dedication or to get over the various amount of injuries. You know, a lot of them get hurt once, and instead of being like, all right, I'm going to keep going for this because, you know, my sponsors are supporting me and stuff like that. It's like you blow your knee now and you're making $500 a month. You're like, I think I'm just done. But like, if you're making 100K a year and you blow your knee and your sponsors are like, we want you to get healthy. Like, you know, we got your back, and then you rehab it and do a good job. And then you're back in the field, and, you know, you can, and I think you can attest to that, being somebody who has injured yourself, you know, 10 times really seriously. And I think you've had multiple knee injuries.
Yeah, I've had eight knee surgeries so far, and hopefully that's doesn't like.
Okay, so here's a question I have for that. You've had 8 knee surgeries. What made you continue to move forward? If you were making $1,000 a month, let's say you're making 20, like you said, you threw out a number there, it's a rough number, but $20,000 a year, would you have quit at 2 knee surgeries, or do you think you would have made it to 8 knee surgeries with $20,000 a month?
Fuck it, it's so hard to say, like from this side of the table, you know, because I was.
I know, and hindsight's a bitch, but
Yeah, because like I've been actually thinking about this question, you know, if it made any sense, because I've never snowboarded for money, like that was never like you know, like that didn't really matter. I always wanted to snowboard. But the fact is, if I was making, let's say 20 grand a year from snowboarding, I would also have to work some other job, you know, so that would actually take time out of snowboarding, and that probably would make me realize like this doesn't make any sense, sacrificing my body for something that actually it's not, you know, like bringing food to the table. But it's super hard to say. I mean, yeah,
Sorry, continue.
yeah, I'm just saying like it's probably easier to, like, if you never made it that far to actually make good amount of snowboarding, then it's easier to make that call, just doing it for the love of the sport, you know. But once you made it, if someone paid you 100 grand for snowboarding and then suddenly they like decrease it to 20 grand, and then you would have to make that call, I think it's going to be easier to let go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, but it's kind of, yeah, it's a tough question because as I said, you know, like I never snowboarded for money, but at the same time, if you get money from snowboarding, it makes life a lot easier. You can actually like fully commit to it.
Totally. And I think I hope I didn't word any of that too wrong. It makes me sound like you should only be striving for greatness if you're following a paycheck. But I think now what we're seeing a lot more of is elite athletes who are getting paid big money from energy drink companies, et cetera, like the Mark McMorrises of the world that are incentivized to continue with progression from financial backing. You know, of course, Mark genuinely, I know is like has a soul and he loves snowboarding and he has a passion for snowboarding. That's amazing. But I think we're seeing a lot more kids and a lot more individuals have really unique style, because I feel like the style and the soul of snowboarding isn't following anything but just pure passion, where the progression of snowboarding, where you're really going to risk or jeopardize one's body, typically you want to get incentivized for that through money. You know, if you're going to hit Chad's Gap, which isn't, you know, you're not going to just do that with no paycheck. You're not going to want to be the next Sage Kotzenberg without really thinking you're going to get rewarded for that, typically through some sort of, you know, pot of gold, you know what I mean? 100K or 50K or 20K. You know, if I hit Chad's Gap and I do a double back 12, I'm probably going to land myself on Burton and get a 3-year contract. Where I think people who are out there doing cool, you know, air to fakies and weird crooked cops and Japans and stuff like that, and they're real and cool ollies, aren't really focused on landing a paycheck. They're out there because they have just passion.
Yeah, like totally. And I mean, like that's the actual, like the soul and the roots of snowboarding. Like we need people like that, you know. And I was just actually, when we had this rap party for that TV show, I was trying to explain all these like production people what snowboarding really is. And I was telling like how, since snowboarding is in the Olympics, it kind of created this whole thing that there's always been competitive guys. But when I was competing, it was still kind of like I was competing against the guys that also filmed, you know. So it was easy because I would be there like with Mark from Montoya and Hampus Mosesson and Aaron Niemela, and we just kind of like laughing about it. Like, when was the last time you did a backside 7? And they're like, fuck, that was 2 months ago, hitting a jump in the backcountry. And they were like, kind of like everybody was on that same level. Like there was like no one was that good or like not that consistent, you know, because everybody was kind of like just super loose. So it was actually fun to compete. But then it got to a point when with like half of the field were guys that were only compete, you know, so they were like super consistent all the time. You knew they would land their runs. So that's when it kind of got tricky and it wasn't that fun anymore. You kind of had to choose, either you competed or you only filmed. So I think that is also creating a bigger gap between the riders that only film and the riders that only compete. You know, it's kind of almost two different sports now, you know. It's kind of like this gymnastics side, and then it's the original snowboarding with more style and creativity. But I mean, like, there's good sides of both of them, you know, and I totally understand why it is like this, you know. But I would rather see snowboarding staying a little bit lower off the ground, you know, and then people just enjoying themselves instead of just like getting that gymnastics fucking triple quad corks. But at the same time, I'm not able to do those tricks, you know. If I was, it would be probably fun to be on the podiums and doing that stuff, you know. But it's fucking crazy these days. But it kind of became that sport that it's kind of like, when my kid grows up, it's going to be hard to tell him like, yeah, fucking, you know, snowboarding is so fucking fun, you know, like you should try to make it in the Olympics, you know, because it's fucking crazy.
Yeah. it's
That was-
crazy and it's dangerous, and you have to commit, as you said, to
Yeah.
being if you're going to ride like Mark McMorris, who I just saw the other day was riding at, I think, Saas Fee or wherever. And it was like, he posted a triple 14. And I was like, he probably, as soon as he got there, was like, I have to rip the Band-Aid off and do this now, or I'm not going to want to do this again. You know what I mean? You can't just not do that. It's not like, I mean, it is like riding a bike for some, it's muscle memory for sure. But I mean, if you don't do that trick for a year or two, I can only imagine what it's like for Mark, who's gone through crazy injuries. And I'm using his name as a lot of, because he is, to me, I think he's one of the best snowboarders of all time. Just, you know what I mean?
Coolest dude
And
as well.
yeah, I'm a huge fan, and I love how much he brings, similar to you, but in disproportionately. Like Mark, I feel like 50% of his time is devoted to contest riding, but he does spend a lot of time just riding the mountain, riding POW, filming video clips. He has such a overall appreciation for all aspects of snowboarding, and I really like that for somebody who is the face of snowboarding. Where I felt like Shaun White was just doing contests, he kind of extracted himself from the community, didn't really partake in like the fun side of snowboarding. It was just like, I need to win. Where I feel like Mark does a good balance of like wanting to win, but also filming awesome methods on side hits. Clearly he's competitive, but sorry to bring this back to the analogy about you, is that you were, you know, I would say 95% of your time or 90% of your career was focused on filming video parts. And I mean, they were amazing. And they were always a segment that we were all looking forward to, because we never knew what you would do because you brought so much to the table. But you did go in X Games and you won gold. So it's like you didn't focus all of your time on being the contest kid, but it was pretty mind melting to see you just like, all right, I'm going to X Games, and then you just took home a gold.
Yeah, that was pretty fucked up actually. I wasn't like, I definitely didn't think that was going to happen. I remember being on the in the airplane on my way to Aspen, and because that same season I actually ended up learning the back 10 double cork and also the backside double rodeo 9 at a contest, one in freestyle CH at the scaffolding jump, and the other trick, the double backside rodeo 9, I learned in Korea at a bigger contest and a scaffolding jump, you know. So I was flying to Aspen thinking on the plane, I'm like, fuck, if as usual there's 3 jumps and rails, you know, like my goal run, the dream run would be to like do back 10 double back rodeo 9 and then switch double backflip, and that would be kind of like a dream come true, and like the most I could do actually. And that ended up happening as well, you know, because like the funny fact is I barely made it through the qualification, you know, so I was the last guy to make it in the finals. I was in the bubble for a long time, you know, and then so I was the first guy to drop in the finals, and we like everybody had 3 runs each and only 1 run counted. So my very first run of the finals, that was the winning run. So I kind of like had to sit down and wait for everybody else to take their 3 runs and see if anyone was going to beat my score, but no one didn't. I mean, but also like after that first run, I just knew that was like the best I could do, you know. So the 2 second runs, I was just doing methods and 360s and stuff. Like I wasn't even trying to like better myself anymore. It was pretty funny, but I couldn't believe it, you know, like fuck, it was a good timing for me as well, because I feel like, you know, being done with Mackdawg Productions and then filming Tracking Arrow, I didn't think that was like really the best season for me. I wasn't really learning any new tricks, and I was kind of like, you know, when you get those moments in your career, you just feel like, okay, like everything's kind of going downhill. And then that season happened to be like the season that I actually learned a couple new tricks and won the X Games, you know. So I'm like, fuck, yeah, that's good, you know, that gives me like a couple more years of security with sponsors as well, you know. So that was like a good turning point in my career, winning that contest, I feel like.
Let's take this back briefly to standard. This we've covered a lot, but just quickly throw back standard, which I want to personally talk about because White Balance was one of my favorite movies growing up. I loved your part in that. 2 notable clips: the cab 10, the back 180 on the hip. and then I mean, Lost in Transition, 2004, the switch front blunt on that infamous rail at North Star, and the switchback five. The switchback five that you have in that movie is the fucking best. Like one of my favorite switchback fives ever.
Is that the Hempstead jump?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
I was trying to do switchbacks at 7 and just didn't.
You're
turn
so dunked, and the poke is so it's fire. I watched it like 100 times like 2 weeks ago when you said you're confirming this time, and I was like, oh, I gotta watch White Balance and Lost in Transition. But you do go from standard to Mack Dawg, and then from Mack Dawg, you leave and start making Cooking with Gas. What were the major differences between those three productions, and what made you move from standard and then you left standard, like you left Mack Dawg even? Like, why did you choose to keep moving forward with those different projects?
Yeah. So what happened actually was I was in 2002 I was filming for this European company. It was like Mark Lutz, like Prime Evil. It was called, the movie was called, and I shared a part. I had a last part in that film with Mats Johnson. And then Heikki was filming for Standard Films that same season for Notice to Appear. And then Heikki left Standard Films to film for Mack Dawg. And then so there was a spot open. So I also met the Standard dudes in Hempstead when we were filming for that Mark Lutz video. So they kind of like already knew me and how I was writing. So they kind of like, I think Heikki was kind of like pushing it as well. They're like, hey, you guys should take Eero on the roster. So that kind of happened. So I think it was that called me up and said like I want to start filming for them, which was a really cool opportunity because they really teach me everything about backcountry. Like I was staying at Mike Hatchett's place. I just flew to Reno. They picked me up from the airport. Like I think I was 17 at a time. I didn't have a driver's license. You know, I was just like fucking couch surfing and using their sleds, and they would like really teach me everything I needed to know about filming a video part. And I got super lucky that season as well because like, you know, those big ass Hempstead shoots they used to have for the Burton team. So the former Oakley team manager used to be the best friend of the Burton team manager. So he was allowed to pick one Oakley rider to be at the shoot, you know, so he picked me. Like if you look at my White Balance part, if I didn't go to Truesdale and Hempstead to film those park shoots, like I would not have a part, you know. So it's basically, I would say it's like 30% backcountry and street stuff, and then 70% of the part is from those shoots, those Burton shoots. So if I didn't get to go, like I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now. I think, you know, like that really made it for me. Like that Oakley team manager, he saved me, and thanks to Burton as well to inviting me to that shoot. At the White Balance part, and then I filmed another season with Center Films for Lost in Transition, and that kind of the same thing happened. I had a little bit more backcountry footage since I was maybe riding backcountry a little bit better. I was landing more stuff, but still I had maybe like half of my part was almost from Hempstead, you know, like the same thing, a lot of park stuff. And so what happened after that season, I was talking to the former Nitro team manager, Tony Nakopan, because I had like a little cameo segment in Heikki's part in Chalksmack, which was 2004, the same year we were Lost in Transition. You know, we were doing this like holding hands and then doing front flips and what. And actually, it had that little like snowy like butter pad. You know, like I was jumping on and then jumping off. And I had that little clip. I did a front 180 on and then switchback rodeo down the like little step down or whatever it is. And the first try, it was pretty funny because that was the first day I actually met Mack Dawg, Mike McIntyre, and he was like filming on the knuckle of the landing, and I was doing my switchbacks at rodeo. The first try, I fucking just drifted way too much and landed on Mack Dawg. So I was kind of like, all right, there goes my opportunity to film for these guys. but it was pretty funny, and that was
you
like,
hit Mack Dawg.
Yeah, I totally hit him. Yeah,
you can't hit Mike.
Yeah, and actually, I don't know. I just keep coming up with these stories right now because like how this whole thing happened when I was filming for Chalksmack as well. Like I was just hanging out in Tahoe at Mike Hatch's place, and I was just fucking having a day off, sitting on the couch, and suddenly someone knocks on the door, and then I open the door, and Jussi Oksanen is there because he came by to say hi to Mike Hatchett, who wasn't there. And he's like, yeah, we're just gonna go film for Mack Dawg for a session. You want to join us? I'm like, yeah, fuck, I got nothing else going on, like, I'll definitely join you guys. So that was the introduction to me. Mack Dawg and Heikki was there as well, so we're riding together. And I feel like that gave me the opportunity to start filming for them. So they asked me next season if I wanted to start filming for Mack Dawg. And I talked to Tonino Coppen, who used to be the Nitro team manager, about it, because I wanted to stay loyal to Standard Films. I told him straight up, and like, fuck, like those guys believed in me and they gave me the opportunity to film for Standard Films. So I don't want to leave. Like, I want to stay with Standard Films. And he told me straight up, he's like, if I don't start filming for Mack Dawg, they just gonna fucking lower my salary. So he made my decision a lot easier. I'm like, okay, like this is exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to film for Mack Dawg because I feel like that's a better fit for me, because they're filming more street, they're doing more park, and like I wouldn't say they're doing less backcountry, but it's not that heavily focused in backcountry. So that would fit my writing style way better. So Tonino made my decision a lot easier. I could still tell straight up Standard Films, like, fucking, it's not really my call, like I don't want to like get a pay cut because I keep writing for you guys or filming with you guys. So I'm going to Mack Dawg instead. And I think that was definitely the best decision of my career moving on, like I feel like that kind of put me in the spotlight, being able to film for Mack Dawg. Because like the first season I filmed for them was the From With Love. So I got the first part in that film, and then I filmed Follow Me Around part was the next one. I got the last part in that video. And then I got heard in Picture This, but I still managed to pull off a part. And then I filmed for Double Decade and I got the first part in that video. So that kind of put me on the map finally, I feel like.
Was Standard upset with that decision? And was that an easy call? I mean, if you said you're staying with Mike at his house, so I'm assuming you're kind of building a strong relationship. He gave you that opportunity. Was that an easy discussion to be like, yo, I'm leaving, I'm going over to Mack Dawg? Was he chill about it, or was he kind of choked?
I can't really remember like how that phone call actually ended up. I mean, like they were definitely bummed. I mean, but it's at the same time, it was like a decision that I had to make and listen to myself, and also what was the best for my career. And I'm sure they understood, like, I mean, I wasn't the first guy that left, Heikki left and Jussi left, and fucking pretty much everybody left at one point, So I mean, I think it was the hardest thing was for me, because I wanted to stay loyal, like I've always stayed loyal. I've been writing for Oakley since '99. I've been writing for Nitro since 2001. I've always stayed loyal to the companies that I work with, So I think that was the hardest part, to like let them down. And it was like my own mental thing, I think they just moved on. They're like, fuck yeah, we just take Torstein, they just move on and get the next guy.
Yeah, Standard was really good for bringing people up. But when I was a kid, Standard went from, I don't know, it was really sick, and then it quickly turned into this like draw the line and all that stuff. Like, from being a Winnipeg kid that grew up, I think, on a lot of kids, they have a tendency to like a little bit of backcountry, but they also want, a big focus on rails, and park stuff was massive back then for a younger generation. And Standard, like you said, was really, so it wasn't fully focused, but it always had like a priority to have a lot of lines and stuff like that. And I think, to me, those were boring parts that I would just skip. And Mack Dawg always just seemed a little bit more like action-packed, well-rounded, not a lot of big lines. And if it was a line, it was like really meaningful and pretty progressive, I guess you could say. Yeah, Mack Dawg was just like more of a kids movie, you know what I mean? Where I felt like Standard at one point became like for the old guys that like to watch POW, and now I'm a POW rider, and I'm like laughing because that's all I well, not all, but what I focus on watching now.
Yeah, but it's actually pretty sick. I watched White Balance one day. Like I hadn't watched it for like 10 years.
So good.
That movie is actually pretty fucking good. I mean, like the way it's filmed, the way it's edited, like
it's the best Standard movie, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's pretty sick. I was stoked to be part of it, and I got to be in a movie with Terry as well, so that was sick.
Yeah, Matt Hammer's part, John Jay's part in that, fucking so sick. I was a big fan of White Balance. And then, so then you film with Mack Dawg. I have two questions about Mack Dawg. Did you feel, coming from Finland, that you were embraced in the crew and it was fun and it was easy? and you enjoyed your whole time with Mack Dawg. The reason why I asked that is because you do leave after 4 seasons or 5 seasons with Mack Dawg and decide to do something else with Heikki. I'm wondering why you chose to make that decision.
Yeah, I mean, just like Mack Dawg, they just quit. Like what actually happened with that is like Brad Kramer and Jaakko Itaho, my Finnish homie that used to be the filmer and edit the films as well. They just decided they wanted to leave and actually start their own production company, which never happened. They pretty much just like picked all the writers. They're like, okay, let's do our own thing, like type of thing, like not saying like fuck Mack Dawg, but they're like, okay, like we can do the same thing without Mack Dawg. So they pretty much like picked all the writers and they're like, okay, let's leave, let's do something else next season. And then when Mike found about it, he's like, okay, that's the end of Mack Dawg. Like I'm not making movies anymore. And then suddenly Brad and Jaakko, they just decide, okay, like we're actually gonna start working for Burton instead. So like all these writers are just like fucking left with nothing. And Mack Dawg's not making movies anymore. And everybody's kind of okay, like what should we do next? So I got super lucky because we were filming Tracking Arrow at that time. Like actually, I think like the original plan was to make that TV show with Jake Blåvold. But since he was writing for Forum and only Oakley Goggles, they decided to like use me instead because I was also writing Oakley Outerwear. So I got super lucky because I didn't know what to do that season.
I think a lot of writers didn't know what to do.
Yeah, and I feel like
Wow.
I don't know what other people were doing, but yeah, at least like everybody was kind of like forced to do something else. It was like it got to a point when it was almost like too easy and convenient filming for Mack Dawg. You just kind of like, yeah, we got this full setup, we got a car, we got the sleds, like we just go to the States for 3 months and film the video part and then stay in Finland and film the rails that we need. And then the video part comes out and people buy it and watch the movie and we're fucking superstars, But then it got to a point when that was taken away from us. We're like, okay, like what the fuck? Like now we have to actually figure out what to do ourselves. Like it gets pretty hard at that point.
And that's when People would have started. Did you get an opportunity to film with People, or because I feel like People, when Mack Dawg stopped, they were like, okay, there's a void here. Let's fill that. And let's fill that with, I think People started, and then that's when Videograss would have started. And then there was like, or not those exact dates, but there was a push for a bunch of new production companies. Cause I think a lot of the generation, my generation, was looking at it being like, we're done watching standard movies. Like it was just a certain appeal. And I'm wondering did you get any opportunities with other productions that you had to turn down? Or did you and Heikki just like already make your decision to start a web series and didn't even need to open that?
Yeah, well, what happened, we actually did that 2010, we made our own film, was Eurogap 3. I don't know if you ever saw that film, like those
I didn't. Well, maybe. Actually, no, sorry, I did. Is David Benedict in it?
No, he's not. It's just
Okay.
like, it was like me, Hampus, Heikki, Mark Kukoski, fucking.
I was smoking a lot of weed then. I watched every video ever. At that point, I feel like I was probably just, I don't know.
Have to send you a link.
Don't remember.
I have to send you a link. Actually, that movie is pretty funny. It actually came out pretty good. So basically, when that movie came out, it was one of the first films that would be like made only for internet, So we just like fucking released it online for free for people to watch. But it was like, I think it was maybe, I feel like it was bigger in Europe than in the US, like the name was Eurogap and stuff. Maybe like the Americans were like, fuck, we're not watching that shit. But it was, yeah, but that movie came out pretty cool. And then the next season, Nitro was making a film. So I was filming for that one. But then I blew out my knee. So I wasn't like really able to finish off the season. And Heikki was filming for People at that time. And then when Heikki's video part came out and I was like back in shape again for 2012, I was talking with Heikki. I'm like, I was pretty ready to start filming for People. And then I was actually asking around like what other writers thought about the People film like in the past. And they're like, fucking, we haven't even seen it. And that kind of like just made me think like, why would I film for a company that people even don't watch their movies anymore? Like in general, like people don't buy DVDs or like, they just want to like go online and watch stuff for free. So then I just hit up Heike. I'm like, fuck, like, why would we film for that company when we can actually do something ourselves? You know, let's just fucking do cooking with gas. And that was it. You know, like Heike left people and I didn't start filming for people, and we started doing our own thing. And we did that for 3 seasons in a row.
Dang, that's interesting because People was huge in Canada here. It was like,
Yeah.
yes, like People was like the Mac, it just took Mack Dawg's spot. Like everyone just started buying People films. But that's interesting to hear that, you know, if you, where you're standing from, you know, I asked a bunch of European friends, you guys watching People? And everyone's like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, fucking, maybe it just got to a point, is like, why would we help this production company with 16 writers to like, why would we help this movie to be better? Like, why wouldn't we just do something that we would be in the spotlight, actually deciding what we get to do, where to travel, who to ride with, who to film with, you know? So we just kind of wanted to like have that all on our own control. Like we wanted to make those decisions at that point, you know? And I feel like, and there was also a need for that, because like no one was actually making, like people were making webisodes, but they were not making webisodes where they would actually put out like all the A-grade footage like right away. So we're like, why not just do this right now, because no one else is doing it.
So you made a good excuse to spend 3 seasons with one of your best friends and enjoy when you guys were both, you know, maybe you were at the peak of your career. Heike, maybe not, but regardless, you guys got to spend like 3 seasons together. And reflecting on that, I don't think you'll ever regret making that decision rather than filming with People, which is, you know, a wide variety of people from all over the world. You get to focus on filming with one of your friends, which at that time, there wasn't a lot of people that were just like, I'm just filming with my homie crew full time. It's like most people that were pro were filming for one of the big name movies, and you were spending a full season with people that you don't really know. But it's, I mean, you're going to become friends with those people. I'm just saying that you didn't really get to spend a lot of time with your like close friends, and the fact that you got to spend 3 or 4 years with your closest friend and then add Laurie to the mix, and, you know, watching those films, it was really evident that you guys were having the time of your life.
Yeah, that was fucking sick. Like I definitely don't, I do think that was the best call we would have made or could have made at that point. And I don't really regret anything, that's for sure. And at that point as well, you know, because it got to a point when you're filming for Mack Dawg, for example, and then, you know, by the end of the season, like all your sponsors ask you like if you have any footage that you could give them for whatever reason, you know. And then you're always like, yeah, I don't have any footage, you have to ask Mack Dawg. And then they would have to buy all that footage, and it all got super expensive and super complicated, you know. So I wanted to be that guy as well, you know. When we're doing Cooking with Gas, like I own all this footage and I'm able to give it out to like whoever wants to use it for whatever reason, you know. So it just, I think it made a lot more sense to like all the sponsors that I was like writing for as well.
Totally. I think that's a big thing, is like, as much as you want to do whatever you want, you also need to please your sponsors, especially if they're paying the bills at that point. And that time was very, very crazy though. That transition from DVDs, VHSs, world tours to, you know, 2010 comes and everybody is asking so many questions. There's Instagram, there's Facebook, and now there's Twitter, and it's just social media world around the clock, instant content. Everyone, all brands are starting to scramble, like moving in this direction. And it's been like that for the last, you know, 10 or 12 years now. We're moving into, yeah, probably 12 years now. And I'm wondering, do you think that one outweighs the other? Do you feel like, you know, making team videos and stuff, or do you feel like social content? And do you feel like one of those is more beneficial for, you know, the riders or the brands? Or do you feel that, you know, which one are you leaning towards as far as being maybe better moving forward? Because I personally think the video, like, long live the video, but I also feel like I'm a dinosaur, and like maybe it's social media, maybe it's just instant posting your videos at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, like I would,
Or is
like
it a
to,
mix?
yeah, I would like to say as well, like just fucking like filming like video parts, it's still like the sickest thing ever. But to me, it's not, you know. Like for example, like my homie Antti Jussila just released a video part which is fucking sick. But at the same time, like he worked for that video part for 5 months, you know, and then it comes out and people still watch it just for one day on the internet or maybe 2 days. It used
I
to make,
watched it once and it was sick.
yeah, it's super sick. But that's what I mean. I mean, like when we were filming for Mack Dawg and these movies were sold on DVD and you had to wait another year to see the next Mack Dawg video, like people would actually fucking watch the video 300 times. So I feel like it made more sense to film, like to actually sacrifice 5 months to film for a part. But now when you film 5 months for a part and then you come out with this fucking massive video project or a video part and then people watch it for one day, it just feels like why did I fucking do this?
That's
So to me, it got to a stage when I was filming video parts for like 13 years in a row, and I felt like I was like I had done it. Like I'm not saying I have done it all, but I've done it on my best abilities. You know, like I wasn't really holding back, and I always gave it my best. So it got to a point when I was like, fucking, I can't really better myself anymore. Like if I keep doing this, it gets to a stage when my parts are just getting worse and worse and worse, and I don't want to be that guy, you know. So I decided, why not just to like film fun stuff which is more relatable and stuff that's fun for me to hit for Instagram, and then I own the footage. I can give it out to like Oakley and give it out to Nitro and Red Bull and whoever wants to use it. And then also on the side, I get to do these like little Red Bull projects here and there. I'm actually we're releasing a new Red Bull project that we filmed last spring, which is going to be released end of October. That we haven't really talked about it at all, but it's a cool project that we got to do. So I'm stoked to release it soon.
dang. I'm looking forward to that. I really am. Yeah, my dinosaur person, because I grew up in that era, is like long live the VHS and DVD. Yeah. But I get it. I feel like you need a mix between, like, obviously social content's important, and you know everyone's just playing on their phones. And it is crazy now that if you like snowboarding, skateboarding, and surfing, you follow all the best snowboarders, skateboarders, and surfers, and then you scroll through your phone, and in one scroll in 10 minutes, you're seeing the most progressive, best footage ever coming out every day. And so nothing hits anymore. It's just like, it's so rare when you watch somebody post something that you're genuinely like, I'm going to watch this 5 times in a row and like really analyze what's going on here. You're just normally like, swipe, 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 and then you look up and your taxi's there and you're like, all right, jump in the cab. Like but before there was, that's why I always say on the podcast, it's really important that if you like somebody's video project, to set aside time like it's a movie, and like, you know, get into the couch, get some beers, order some pizza, invite your snowboard friends over and watch the movie in its entirety with surround sound, and like, you know, get into it, instead of like, oh, this full part's out, I'm just going to watch the one. Like, I like to like set aside and watch the full movie. And I hope anyone who's listening to this that works at any mags or anything like that, like, don't release the enders and the best clips. They horror out all that content so quickly. And I just want to see the movie first, you know, I just want to watch the movie and get blown away, you know, maybe a teaser releases, and then throughout the year, use the content.
Yeah, that would be the best way to do it. But I just feel like, yeah, if I can, like, Anna Gasser is coming out with the film, you know, and you know, she was the first chick to do that triple cork or the triple underflip or whatever it was, you know, and it was super sick. But I mean, like, for example, that was one of the things that was supposed to be saved just for the film, you know. But I think it also got to a point when like she was too scared, like if she's gonna like hold on to this footage and not release it, like there's gonna be another chick doing that trick before her and claim to be like the first chick in the world to do that triple cork, you know.
Interesting. Never thought about it like that. For the most progressive riders in the world, if you're really looking at like putting out like something like that, you know, you're worried that, you know, Jamie Anderson's going to go do it and then she's going to get all the clout for it.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like writers and people at this time are always like fighting against time as well. They want to be the first to release stuff, you know, like they want to be like, I mean, like I know it as well, you know, because I could go ride a street spot with a homie and we're like, okay, like, so when are you going to release this footage? Like, am I posting tonight? Are you posting tonight? Like, when are you posting this? You know, so it's kind of like, if you post this before me, it's kind of like, okay, this spot is already kind of spoiled, you know? And then it got you know, like fucking, okay, you got 10,000 followers, I got 200 followers, 200,000 followers, you know, so maybe it makes more sense that you post it first, because like there's still a lot of people that haven't seen it when they watch it on my channel, you know, and it gets like super weird and awkward, you know, just talking about this shit.
Well, here's the thing. You've won video part of the year twice and gibber of the year with Snowboarder Mag. And so when you do that, and you've been filming video parts since like 2000, maybe beforehand, but you know, the big one started in the early 2000s, so almost 20 years of video parts. Like, I don't know what the word, like you could maybe be bored of the formula, but for someone like me, growing up with your era, I want to film my, you know, follow me around part, that my best video part still. Like I'm still striving to film. Like I want to film a part one day where Slush Mag or Torment or Method Mags, like I don't know, I don't even know what that's going to look like in a few years, but video part of the year, like my idols, like you and Gigi and Nicholas Mueller. Like I've always just wanted to have a compiled 4 minutes of footage, and then it be good enough that it's noticed by my peers as like one of the best. And so I've always strived for that. I think like it's not unachievable, and I want that. I think there's a lot of kids, if you grew up to the era of 2014, you're still holding on to that. You know, if your favorite snowboarder was someone like Jed or Lewif or Kuzik, you want to get gibber of the year. You know what I mean? So, and I think that comes through filming a video part. And I think in the majority of sense, at least in my little scene here, most of the snowboarders that I really look up to still value the video part over releasing content throughout the year, even if it's like more relatable content, which I think is like kind of a word these days, in the sense that there's a lot of snowboarders that aren't just going out there and hitting the next Chad's Gap, you know what I mean? And they're riding, you know, Mount Seymour again and filming stuff that Devin Walsh filmed on 20 years ago, but they're like, fuck it, like this is fun and people are enjoying watching it. And when they compile it into a video, it's still one of my favorite things to watch. All right, on that note, here's what keeps you motivated? That, I mean, we need to extract that out of your head. Why do you keep going? I mean, I know that you're saying you're filming more relatable content, which I think you're trying to downplay how you're still riding absolutely amazing and completely relevant, and anything that you film, everybody's looking forward to. But yeah, what keeps you motivated to keep filming snowboarding stuff?
Well, it just I feel like it's just fucking fun, you know. I can't let go yet, you know. I feel like I'm still able to ride on the level that I'm enjoying it, and I feel like when I put out footage, people still care, you know. So like to me, when I'm able to like inspire people, I see people get stoked, they write me a message like, fucking that was sick, you know. So that kind of like lights a spark in me, just kind of like, yeah, fucking okay, since people liked it, I want to go out again and film more stuff, you know. So it's still in me, you know. Like I could still go out and film a video part, and I would still enjoy it as much as I did fucking 20 years ago. But it gets to a point when it's kind of like not the same anymore. When you have done it so much, you know, I feel like it's time to move on and do other things. And I feel like, especially with this like filming content and as you said, relatable content for Instagram or whatever it is, you know, like I feel like that kind of takes me back to the roots, like how I grew up riding, you know. It's just like filming with homies, like doing these little things with the little group of friends, and just, you know, like doing stuff with the homies and showing it to the homies. Like that was the most important thing. So now it's kind of like exact the same thing that I'm doing, you know. Just fucking when it snows in the city, I'll just like try to pick up a fun spot to go ride, go there with homies, and then just film. We just film each other, you know. So it's kind of like, it feels like it's the same what it used to be 20 years ago. But instead of filming it with the video camera, we're just filming with the phone. And instead of just putting it on the VHS, we're putting it on Instagram, you know. So nothing's really changed, you know. So I feel like, you know, like the way I grew up riding and then the way I'm riding now, I think it's more similar than what it was in the middle, you know. I feel like those Mack Dawg and Center years were kind of like fucking full on, like wanting to be the best, like wanting to be able to do all the best tricks that people were doing, you know, like kind of stressing about like, if someone learned a trick, I need to learn this trick. I want to be like the rider of the year. I want to have the video part of the year. So those were kind of like, I wouldn't say it was stressful because it was exactly what I wanted to do. But at the time, like I was putting a lot of pressure on myself, you know. So now I'm kind of like fucking. I already made my own film Ender in 2015, and I was like mentally ready to let go. You know, I thought that was gonna be the last project I'm gonna do. And when the movie was released, like all my sponsors hit me up. They're like, fucking, like, this movie was sick. And if you want to keep writing, like, we want to keep supporting you and you can just do whatever you want. I'm like, okay, that's fucking perfect. So now I have no pressure. Like, I'm writing on my own terms. I'm going writing when I feel like writing. I'm filming what I feel like filming, you know? So I think I'm in a perfect place at this, like, you know, like the way my career has played out, you know, like I feel like I'm in a perfect place at the moment, you know, like I can actually do exactly what I want to do. And I feel like hopefully that shows in my videos as well, that I'm actually enjoying snowboarding more than ever now.
I think that it does show. I think that's something that I've picked up at, and I've been following you for years, but I mean, the last couple of years is something that I'm like, damn, like there's somebody that I've looked up to who's still snowboarding in a very tasteful way. I think that's the important part. If you're like a veteran guy and you're riding around the hill and it's in a way that people can't relate to anymore, and they're like, damn, there looks like an old guy who can't indie anymore and he just looks really stiff. Like, I get it. You got to trim the fat on the team. But someone like yourself who's cruising around the hill, I'm like, that looks so fun. Like, you know, whatever you're doing, I'm like a quick little back tail on this, back nose press, back 180, and then you go ride a mini pipe and you're riding with young Dolly, and it's fun to watch you just fuck around with this young generation and still showcase like just how freakishly talented you really are, because it's insane that you could still snowboard to the level that you're at. Because I definitely ride with a lot of people that are your age that were pro 10 years ago, and when they do an indie or a method or a front three, I'm like, holy Hannah, that guy looks like an action figure, like can't really bend anymore and stuff, you know. So I think it's rad to see that your brands have kept you around, but that's also like really easy to be like, keep the old guys around because they've, you know, helped shape the company. But eventually it's like you need to fit into their whole, you know, their whole outlook and their whole program. Like, and if you don't, it's like and if you're not what you said, you know, if you're not relatable anymore, it might be time for you to go. But people like yourself, Ika, etc., just great examples of the young generation who are just get to ride with you guys and are like, damn, there's that old dude who used to film insane video parts who still looks awesome on a snowboard.
Yeah, thank you. That's great to hear. What I think what I realized a few years ago, it's kind of like when you go ride a park and you're filming something for Instagram, instead of like trying to do the fucking hardest tricks that usually don't maybe look the best, you just fucking, I realized I'm just gonna go ride and do tricks that feel the most fun and usually look the best, you know. So it's kind of like, and then you can also create that better flow that looks better in videos and stuff, you know. And I feel like people appreciate that as well. So they're maybe just looking at the footage, just like, fucking, it's rad to see that this guy who's turning 37, he's still shredding and having fun with it, you know. And then, I don't know, I always trying to kind of like, just trying to think about it outside of the box, you know, because you know, I love skateboarding, and Arto Sari was fucking my biggest idol, you know. I love the way he skates, you know. And now trying to think, you know, like if Arto would post like fucking just a 360 flip on a flat, I would still freak out and be super stoked to see it, you know. So also like when I see that I'm that guy thinking that way, you know, so maybe that gives me a little bit of hope, you know, that I can just go ride the hill and do front boards and back flips and whatever it is, and then people just appreciate the fact that I'm still out there doing it with my own style that I've always done it with, you know. So
well, let me intervene here and say you are that guy. That's exactly who you are.
Thank you.
So because I feel like snowboarders and humans in general, it's just this, I'm going to be fully honest here. So I have some really close friends, big pros, and they get nervous to go to snowboard premieres, to snowboard events with the younger generation because they feel outdated and they're insecure about their snowboarding at this moment. And they get worried that people don't want them there anymore. And it's so weird to me. And it's not just one, it's a lot of the, I feel like the older generation of snowboarding starts to feel as if they need to like reprove themselves to
Yeah.
fit in with the young generation. And it builds up this weird anxiety and stress where they're like, do kids like me? Should I leave? Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, dude, no, that like, you can't be like that. But I mean, it's easier said than done. You know, you do get in your head, and I'm wondering, do you still feel the need to ever prove yourself to the younger generation?
I do sometimes. I feel like, let's say I go ride on a hill for the first day of the season, and I see a lot of guys that are actually fucking good at ripping. I'm kind of like, fuck, I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit nervous trying this backflip. You know, what if I catch my edge? You know, like what if something happens? I kind of like to take my time, you know, and just ride for myself a little bit and kind of feel it out. And once I'm feeling comfortable on the board, then it's okay. I can ride with anyone, you know. But and I don't feel like I have to prove myself. I know my limits and I know what I can do, you know, like I'm not, you know, fucking, if someone asks me to do a double cork or a triple cork, I know I just can't do it anymore, you know. I mean, I'm just trying to stay low off the ground and do the things that actually feel fun. And I know are kind of on my comfort zone. So I don't really get offended, you know, but like, I don't know, sometimes, you know, like riding with Rene, for example, you know, he's just so fucking full of energy and so fucking stoked all the time. He's like, hey, Eero, let's just do this and this and that. And I'm like, dude, like, just wait fucking 17 more years and I'll come to you and tell you to do that stuff. You know, it's not that easy, you know? It's just fucking, he's so fucking good. Like, it's unbelievable, you know, but it gets to a stage when he's going to be the old guy and then he will understand. But right now, like for me, it's like when he tells me like, yeah, Eero, just do a fucking 900 on jump. I'm like, fucking, I need to fucking stretch for 15 minutes before that. And then I need to take fucking 20 warm-up laps. And then I can maybe hit that jump with the straighter and then move on to a 900. That would take me 2 days, you know? But yeah, but it's funny. I mean, I probably used to be that same guy as well. So it's just fun to see that.
Yeah, I don't know why. I think the mentors that I had at a very young age held, or maybe just the community I grew up in held, like the older generation in a really high regard, where it's like kind of like respect your peers, like this guy's paid his dues. And it was kind of like that at the skate park I grew up at. It was like, there's the old guy, he's not as good as you guys, but when he comes in to do the backside 5-0 with a crook, and when he does it, it's gonna be better than anybody because he's been doing it for 20 years. And it's like, I love seeing those people in the park. And when I first came to Whistler, I was like, damn, there's that old dude who's riding the park. And if, you know, they did a sick front three, it doesn't need to be the best one ever, but if it's pretty sick, I'm like, yes, like I get fired up. So I hope that's still the case, because I'm, you know, unfortunately, I'm moving into that older category that I'm reluctant to say that I'm being a part of. And I try so hard to like stretch and everything like that to make sure that I still have my tweaks and grabs and everything like that to make sure I don't look too dated on the hill. But eventually I'll just be too dated, and I hope people still like enjoy that I'm up there. Because I don't know, when you spend your whole life devoted to something, it would feel weird to slowly feel insecure about something that you love so much to the point where you don't want to do it in front of others.
Yeah, and I feel like nowadays as well, like I think as you said, it used to be different, you know, but now just people are just stoked to see people skateboarding or snowboarding, you know, like whether the skill level, you know, they're just happy that you're there doing your own thing. And which is the best thing about this sport as well, is kind of like you're always battling against yourself. Like everybody is going to have their own challenges, whether it is like doing a front board or it is to doing a triple cork, you know, like you can only like just better yourself, you know.
That was dope. I like that, because there's so many tricks over the years that I'm good at that other people aren't good at. And I've learned over the years, and maybe I don't butcher this, but I use this analogy too much, because to me, it's like, you look at the guys like, you know, Devin Walsh, and you think of like, you know, a half cab, or you look at yourself and you're like backside lip or backside rodeo, or you look at Andrew Reynolds and you're like frontside flip or whatever. And you look at those individuals who have their staple tricks. That's what I want to see from that individual. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's what I want to see. If I was going to ride the hill with you and you did a backflip on the smallest flat bar, I'd be like, yes, he still got it. Not like, you know, I've seen you backlip down the 50 stair wood rail. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to see you do that again. You've done it. And you've done a lot of insane back lips on the topic of back lips. Like you fucked up some back lips, dude. Like
That's my favorite trick. I mean, like one of the favorite tricks, and I feel like the back flip for some reason it's easier to lock, than the front board. Like once you get into that like really good front foot positioning, like you can fucking just keep going.
I think there's a lot of people are listening to this and they beg to differ. There's a couple people right now that are like, when I lock in a back lip, I'm holding on for dear life. I go to fakie and then I separate my shoulder.
Okay. Yeah, that could happen for sure. I can see that happening, but like sometimes you get lucky and then you just fucking you lock it, you just keep going.
All right, we're gonna just quickly. Do you have any shout outs to some younger generation, some up and coming kids that you're hyped on? And then we'll move into 10 questions and we'll let you get some shut eye.
Like, what do you mean? What kind of shout outs?
So, just like, is there some kids that are coming up that are maybe, that you've been boarding with from Finland that you're hyped on, that you feel they're just some up and comers?
Yeah, actually, I've been just riding with Antti and Tony and these guys a bunch lately, so I wasn't really able to ride with any new homies. I mean, Sami Luhtanen, that guy's Dr. Luti. He's fucking crazy. Yeah, he's insane. I mean, like I hardly ever see him. Like we send some messages on Instagram once in a while, but he's the sickest dude. And there's some new guys coming up for sure. But I'm kind of waiting for that new wave, like it was cool to see when I was growing up having like the full trolley clan, and I feel like there was like 15 to 20 Finnish guys like going into the US and then making it as a pro. So now there's just like one guy here and there, like Rene is fucking sick, and he's gonna go places. Like he already is, I feel like he's one of the best in the world for sure. So that's cool to see. So maybe he's gonna be the next big guy, and maybe he can take some new guys with him, I'm hoping for that.
Rad. Yeah. I really enjoy watching him snowboard because nobody snowboards like him. He's doing his own thing.
Yeah. And the personality as well, he's just like overall, like super humble, super nice. And like, he just appreciates the fact that he gets to be there and do that. Like there's not people like him. He's definitely special. And the way he rides is just like, it's also special.
Rad. All right, so we got 10 questions for you. Just these are kind of quick, just whatever comes to mind. Yep. Best style currently and back in the day.
Best style currently, fucking, I would say maybe Ika has the best style. Well, there's a bunch of people like Ika, Tommy Gesme, Louis. Maybe they have the best styles, and then Gigi had the best style in the past. Yeah.
Most underrated boarder.
Most underrated boarder. Fucking, who would be the most underrated? Well, maybe like fucking Chad Otterstrom is pretty sick, but he's not like really like underrated, because he's a big dog, but like he still fucking shreds, and people don't even realize that, like he's not young anymore and he's fucking killing it. But I almost like also want to say that fucking like Heikki was never underrated, but I feel like he maybe should have even gotten more recognition. I've seen him ride like fucking, I would say he's one of the best in the world for sure. Just the way he rides, just look at things, and just being in the backcountry with him, he could just like land everything like first try. Like he was just so talented. I feel like he didn't really I think he didn't really have to work as hard for it as some other people, and I think that was not so good for him, like he was naturally too talented almost, so like everything came super easy for him. He might disagree with me, but like the way I've seen him ride, like he was fucking the best in the world. And in that sense, the way that I know the capability that he was able to ride, like I feel like he was almost underrated.
That name was very big and very respected from the time I grew up. Heikki, yeah, like all of my older friends that I looked up to was like, that's how you jump. Yeah. Back seven, fully straight off the takeoff, pop so big, dopest indie, halfway down the landing. Then he could ride a quarter pipe, and like, or the hip shots he's had are like that method. He's like 1,000 feet in the air. Like he's a madman.
And like it's hard to explain. Like I'm not saying he was ever underrated, you know, like
Yeah.
just act like how fucking good he was, you know, like I feel like he should have been like even more rewarded for it, you know. That's what I'm trying to say.
I like it, dude. I like that plug. I think I'm hyped on that. All right. I like the Chad O one too. Eddie Wall said that too.
Yeah.
Number 3, what do you get out of snowboarding?
Again, I do get satisfaction. I guess that's the right answer, you know, just like, you know, I just love to go on the hill and just ride, you know, like that gives me freedom and fucking, it kind of like, I don't know, it's just like all your worries disappear when you go on the hill, you know, it's just something you're on your own zone, you're with your friends, you know, you're just doing the thing that you love. I think it just gives you satisfaction and freedom.
So, number 4, have you ever rode with Mark Frank Montoya?
I have, yeah. Mark Frank, he's sick. Fucking, but I'm trying to think where have we been with him? Like for sure, I rode the X Games with him because he used to be on Nitro as well. So I've done some Nitro shoots with him in Utah, I think. But that guy's he's fucking funny. He's the sickest dude. I used to be so stoked to be on the same team with him, also on DVS and then on Nitro. You know, like we did some team trips together. Like that guy's like a full-on comedy show.
Yeah, I've only met him a handful of times, and every night has been a top-notch evening. Number 5, what does your perfect day snowboarding look like?
It depends, but I mean, like if it was the perfect day, it would be just maybe riding with Heikki and some other homies just in Japan, riding POW with the chairlift or a T-bar, so you wouldn't have to hike, you know, just with a little POW board and just taking turns in the woods. That would be awesome.
Dope. What's number 6, worst thing about snowboarding?
Wet boots. I fucking hate wet boots, and also my fucking the skin on my foot just gets all fucked up if I wear wet boots all the time, you know. So I would say wet boots. And packing is fucked up as well.
Number 7, one piece of advice you'd give to the next generation.
Yeah, just be yourself. Don't try to like copy anyone else. I mean, even if Torsten was your favorite rider, like he's already out there. You don't have to look like Torsten or ride like him, you know, like just try to be yourself, and that's the only way to get noticed.
100%. Number 8, what's your favorite clip you've ever filmed?
That would have to be the double back rodeo 1080 on Follow Me Around. I think I would have to say that. Yeah.
All right, number 9, how many pro models have you had on Nitro?
11 pro models. We were actually filming a little piece with the Pablo Films guys for Nitro. There's a little surprise coming out, coming from Nitro. When are you releasing this episode?
Next week.
Next week. Okay, so maybe I'm not talking about it yet, but okay, there's a little surprise.
Cool.
I've been in Nitro for 20 years, so they wanted to surprise me. It came to me as a surprise, and now we filmed a little release video for this like little new board coming out.
Okay, I don't want to skip on that. We'll get to the number 10 in 1 second because that's pretty cool. You've been on Nitro for 20 years?
Yeah.
Damn, dude, that's it. That is insane through thick and thin. Did you ever feel like you were gonna leave or they were gonna drop you, and you guys are still together? I'm wondering, because Terrier is not on Burton, if you're moving up into the category of longest running sponsor.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Like I don't know. I've been just always so stoked to ride for Nitro, so I couldn't see myself leaving. Like you know, when I'm done with Nitro, like I'm done professionally snowboarding as well. I'm not looking for another board sponsor, that's for sure. You know, to me, it's definitely it's a family. It's not even a company that I ride for. Like I ride with the family. That's what it feels like.
And did you ever ride with Rube Goldberg?
I did ride with him as well. Like he's a wild man. Like, he's sick. I rode with a bunch of the Canadians, like Etienne Gilbert. Like we did a trip with him to Japan together. Like he was sick. He used to actually film for Standard Films as well. And then who else? Who else from Canada was on the team? I'm trying to think. Like Sheen Campos, and
Sheen Campos.
yeah,
Yes. Powder
yeah,
legend.
yeah. Rode with him, and then what was it? Tyson Carmody. He's a
Yeah.
Canadian.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Tyson
was on the
Carmody.
team. Yeah, I'm trying to think who else, but yeah, there's a bunch of Canadians.
Yeah. Ben Balak, when he was like all black, was used to ride for them. And
Yeah. Ben Bilak. Yeah, he was actually. We did this like Transworld shootout video in Canyons, Utah. So he was part of it as well. So I rode with him quite a bit as well. He was fucking sick.
yeah, he was really sick. He's the sickest he's ever been. He is the definition of somebody who's aging like fine wine. Like I go ride to hit run with him, he's better than ever.
That's sick.
Yeah. All right. Number 10, the last question. Who is the GOAT?
The greatest of all time. Oh, fuck. There's so many guys that I want to pick out, but yeah, it's hard to say. Like, I mean, I almost want to say Travis Rice. It's not like Travis Rice is my favorite rider to watch, because I mean, like I usually like to watch people that sort of ride similar stuff that I do because I get inspired by that, like the way Travis rides. It's kind of like, fuck, it's just so out there. Like I could never do that stuff, but he's the greatest of all time. And yeah, I would say Travis Rice.
Me too. Yeah. Now that I ride backcountry and I'm trying to find my way onto a pillow line from the top and it's a blind rollover, I'm like, how does Travis do this? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
and then how does he film 20 minutes of this footage every year for 20 years?
Yeah, and it's not like he just drops in the pillow line. He just fucking comes in with the back seven nose or something,
Yeah, no, he's wild. Are there any shout outs, last final words that you have for the guests, for the people that are tuning in?
Yeah, fucking thanks for listening. If you made it this far, and thanks to you, I'm honored to be part of the show. It was really fun chatting, and sorry for my rusty English. This is what it is nowadays, like less traveling, less English, and then I sound horrible. But it is what it is, man.
It is what it is. Thanks again for coming on. Big fan. Thanks for 20 years of hard work and filming video parts that have inspired, dude, millions of people. It's crazy to think about that. But like, think about how many video parts you had. And as you mentioned earlier, that some of those DVDs kids were watching 300 times a year, remembering your gloves, your pants, everything, you know what I mean? And how that compounds over 20 years of them being like, yeah. So just thanks for your dedication to snowboarding, man. You're the best. You're one of the greats, dude. Hold your head high, have yourself a shot of whiskey, and just be happy to be Eero Ettala, because you're the fucking man, buddy. Thanks for coming on the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
I'm
man.
looking forward to another 20 years on Nitro. And I mean, hopefully we can film in the Whistler backcountry together. Who knows?
Okay, after 20 years, we'll make another episode then. I got more stories then.
Good. I want to hear more stories.
Yeah,
All right.
I would have so many more stories that I could tell, but I would have to just scale it down, censor a little bit. There's so many funny stories. But
I can only imagine. And the Tokyo Dome must have been crazy back in the day, just going there with endless support and just going to party in Tokyo.
Yeah, I got some funny stories from there as well. But like we can talk about it. When you come to Finland, we go to sauna and then we talk about it.
All right. Thanks again for setting aside the time, and have a great night, and take care and have the best weekend with your homies.
You too. Thanks, buddy.
All right, peace.